Real quick, before we start this podcast episode, I just want to say thank you for tuning into the Marc Colcer podcast. I know you've got a million things that you could be doing right now, and the fact that you're taking time out of your day to watch this podcast episode truly means the world to me, and I just want to say thank you for that. If you'd like to continue to support the podcast, right below this video, if you could hit the subscribe button, and then, hey, if you got some more time and you want to hit the download button, the comment button, the like button, the share button, any of those buttons, it's greatly, greatly appreciated. It helps for other people to find out about the podcast, and it helps for you to be notified about future episodes. So if you guys could take a quick second, hit the subscribe button, I would really appreciate that. Outside of that, this episode and every other episode is brought to you guys by Roast Umber Coffee. As some of you guys know, I co-founded Roast Umber Coffee, and we have the greatest farmers in Guatemala and Honduras and the greatest roaster in Grand Rapids, Michigan, all to bring you guys the greatest cup of coffee possible. So if you'd like to try it out, go to our website, use the coupon code MARC30, and you're going to get 30% off your coffee. Now on to the episode. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Welcome to the Marc Colcer Podcast. I don't think people realize what happened this past week because you and I started talking about you coming on the podcast. What was that, like a week or two ago? And you were like, all right, I'm looking to come out there pretty quickly. And I was like, all right. And then you were like, the 22nd. How's the 22nd work for you? And I was like, 22nd sounds great. And then I put in my calendar May 22nd. And then on April 22nd, you send me a text. All right, I'm in LA. What's up? And I was like, oh, shit. And I had to check my schedule. I was like, hey, do I have free time? I'm like, I do. I can move around some things. We'll be good. But I completely thought you were coming out May 22nd. And to my surprise, no. It was April 22nd. You were talking, when you said you wanted to come out ASAP, you weren't bullshitting.
Oh, yeah, we'll get it going. Yeah.
That's, I respect the hell out of that. And I hope people realize how much effort that is. I mean, you had 20 hours of flying just to get here. Mm-hmm. How many connections did you have on your way here?
Oh, no, straight here.
Oh,
yeah.
So that's a long-ass time on one plane. I've never done a flight that long, so I commend the fact that you were able to do that. And but it goes to show your commitment to what you're doing, and I think that's really, really cool, and that's what got me excited about doing this podcast episode was because, you and I had never met before this. We got dinner the other night, and I got to know you and got to know your energy and everything like that and your passion for the Soulgods. And so, yeah, that just got me jacked up about doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I spent ages rationalizing the decision and thinking whether it's really worth it, but at the end of the day, like there's so many people working night on day on this project, and it's like it is my job to come here and represent those people. So like, yeah, it's fucking exhausting, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, like these things are incredibly impactful. So yeah, the journey is nothing compared to the impact.
Yeah, and I'm excited for it. I've spent the last probably like 2 or 3 days just deep diving the shit out of SOLgods, learning everything about it. I'm still salty that I don't have any, so I have to disclaim that I currently don't have any, and also none of this is financial advice. Let's get that right out of the way. Always have to say that. But yeah, I spent the last 2 to 3 days just deep diving it, reading the announcements in the Discord, reading everything that you guys have put out. We'll talk about all the writings in a second because those are incredible.
Sure.
But yeah, just spending a lot of time getting to know the project, and all it did is make me feel worse that I don't have one because it's so well done. Everything is so well articulated and everything like that, so well thought out. So shout outs to you and the whole team because job well done.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. It's been a lot of work, and I think for the people that have followed the journey from October, they understand the journey that we have come on. But yeah, it does mean a lot for everything to now start coming into fruition and people start really realizing the things that we're building. I mean, for as long as I can remember, I've been sort of trying to keep my mouth shut. But I mean, things are in such early development. You really don't want to lead people down an avenue that may not be what you end up committing to. So it was really important to us that we had this whole thing mapped out to a multi-year standard before we started saying, hey, look, this is what we're gunning for. But yeah, the reception that we've had from that strategy document has been incredible. And I think people can now finally start seeing the journey. But I mean, I was in the spaces with the Solana Yacht Club, and shout out them guys, they're brilliant. One of the things that the Solana Yacht Club did a really brilliant job of doing was deep diving the project. And it's been really important to us for people to understand how meticulous that process has been. And I mean, like, one of the things I've said from the beginning is like, look, we only surround ourselves in critics. Like, we don't want yes men. We want people that find out continuous weaknesses in our project. So yeah, the last few months have been brutal, to be completely honest. And And now we've got to a point like, hey, look, this is fundamentally what we believe is going to be the most effective thing. And now it's got to the point like, look, let's build this product and let's start marketing it. I mean, I've said this before. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like, we haven't even started marketing yet. We don't even have our product out yet. And it's like one of the things, like when you're trying to build something like what we're building, one of the main obstacles is, hey, like getting yourself out the gate. And that's one of the things that we're really fortunate enough we're really fortunate enough to be in the position where we are at the gate. We have a number of really passionate holders, and we have quite a lot of traction. So I feel incredibly well positioned to start rolling out this roadmap. The individuals that document has brought into this is been humbling. I mean, we were sharing dinner the other night with some of our developers and some of the people that we're bringing in, and the talent really is staggering. And there's a sentiment towards NFTs from some of the computer science talent, like, hey, look, this is a really cheap space. There's a space based around profits. There's a space based around sort of gimmicks, hype cycles, and it was really important to us to put out something that was creative, that had sort of creative dignity, that also had a sensible model. It had a scalable model, and I think that now we've kind of like we've laid out what that plan is. For some of these individuals, that was all they needed to get involved in this project. So it has been an incredible reception, and it's kind of like our job now as a team to sort of keep a handle on everything and make sure the ship is sailing as smoothly as possible. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love number go up more than anyone, but there's so much fucking work to be doing. And yeah, fortunately enough, I'm in a position to spread the word. But yeah, don't get it wrong. There's countless individuals working day and night, trying to make the impossible possible. But yeah, really exciting time for us in a minute.
There we go. That's fucking sick. So let's start off kind of from your beginning. So how did you get into NFTs to begin with?
It was a very rocky road. I was doing a PhD in cyber psychology, and my thesis was on decentralized academic peer reviews. The way academics peer review works at the minute is you need to go through like a centralized governing body, and they're like, hey, look, this data you've provided, we're going to make the final judgment as to whether that's the case. And my belief was like correct data is correct data. It doesn't matter where it came from. And that was kind of like the philosophy of what blockchain kind of represented. So like as I was sort of diving into this thesis, I reached out to some people, some Ethereum influencers, and I wanted to just get an understanding of like how these decentralized models worked. And I ended up writing a blog post for Eagle Capital, just talking about sort of blockchain anonymity and some of the philosophies there. And I had a gentleman, Andrew Thurman, reach out to me, who was an advisor for Chainlink, and he said, hey, look, do you fancy writing for Cointelegraph? And obviously at the time, yeah, I really wanted to. Did a number of articles for them, and I stumbled across the really novel issue of the degen apes and the exiled apes, and there was some kind of like legal grey areas there. And that introduced me to the Solana ecosystem really early on, and more importantly, introduced me to some of the Solana developers early on, and just fell in love with the space. I mean, it was clear from day one that like, hey, look, people that were after money or people that were after like serious liquidity and that kind of opportunity, like they found their home in Ethereum. But people that were building in Solana, they understood that, hey, look, there's like a fundamental difference here between the chains. Like everyone in Ethereum is expecting mass adoption, but I mean, it's probably something we'll get into a little bit, like why I chose Solana to begin with is like, hey, look, we didn't have the capital to start projects on Ethereum. It's like the mass adoption that you're waiting for there. Like I just have a feeling that you're just not going to get it with the way that chain's set up right now. I mean, people are looking for a Web 2 experience. People aren't looking for sort of minutes long transactions and $50 to $100 gas fees. They're looking for something that's instant and free, similar to Web 2, which is what we find in Solana. And yeah, when I was taking a look around the space, I was like, hey, look, I want to deep dive this space. Like, what project do I identify with? And there wasn't really a lot. And I felt like there was an opportunity there to provide a project that had some form of like creative integrity, had some kind of like subtext to it. This isn't just another cartoon. This isn't just another pixel. This is a project that has meaning. Like this digital identity, it's not just like, it's not just a JPEG. Like it does represent something more than that. Yeah, which is quite a roundabout way of answering your question. But yeah, that's how I've ended up in this mess.
No, that's cool. I feel like everybody has their own story of how they got into NFTs, and no two stories are the same, right? Sure. Kind of like NFTs. And it's really interesting to hear how people kind of got excited about it to begin with, and then how they came up with their project and everything like that. But we'll talk about that in a second here. But I wanted to kind of learn more about how you view yourself in this space. Like, it's a really interesting time that we're in, that we see a lot of project leaders that are now becoming leaders in the space. And so, each project kind of they each have their own leaders, and each one of them kind of approaches things in a different way. So how do you view your role in the space?
It's real difficult. I hate the eyes being on me. I hate even being doxed in this kind of environment. And it's the whole reason why I've kind of had I've been pseudonymous this whole time. It's not from any sort of like legal reason or fear. It was more that like, hey, I wanted the conversation more to be on the project. But obviously, as time evolves and I want to represent this project as good as possible, I understand that like certain sacrifices need to be made. And I think there's only an amount of time that I can exist behind King Skelly. There was a time that I needed to like come out and represent this project. So yeah, it's a real difficult responsibility, because I feel like people would like to oversimplify projects, and they say like, hey, look, this thing or that thing that happened within my project, that's down to this one individual, which is true. Like, I do have to accept responsibility of that, but I also now need to represent a number of people on behalf of the project, which is a difficult position to navigate. But at the end of the day, I think like so much of this project is just about transparency, and that's kind of the only approach that I can take, is like, I'm just going to try and be transparent and represent what we're building as best as possible. Like, this is beyond me. This is beyond me just being doxed. And yeah, just trying to use the platform that I have right now as an avenue to communicate all of the hard work that the individuals are doing on the fracture.
I think that makes perfect sense. And I think a lot of it for people is when you hear the founder's voice, or you hear one of the, one of the team members, if there's several founders or whatever, if you can recognize their voice, I think it calms you down when things aren't going so well. Right. So even when like, I'm a lot of people who are watching this podcast probably have seen my episodes with Frank from the D-Gods. And, for a long time, the D-Gods weren't doing so well, right? Mm-hmm. But when I heard Frank's voice, if I heard him talking in a Twitter space, or if Frank was typing or tweeting or something, it made you feel better about your investment at the time. And it made you feel good about, okay, they're going to turn this around, right? And so when people hear your voice and they know your name and everything like that, it makes them feel good of, okay, hey, if our floor isn't absolutely mooning right now, or if it's kind of staying stagnant, or maybe it's dropped a little bit or whatever, it calms them down in a world that's so chaotic, right? Like the NFT world, I feel like I go to bed and I wake up and there's like 1,000 things that have changed, or I go out to eat and I'm not by my phone, and next thing you know, I check Twitter and there's 80 notifications and everything's going crazy. And so I think in the NFT world and Twitter in general and Discord in general is so chaotic that I think people at times feel this sense of calm when they hear somebody that's the leader of a project talking about what's going on. And even like when I was doing my research on SOLgods, when there was times that you guys had to push back things, right? Mm-hmm. And I understood your rationale for doing it, and mm-hmm. obviously in hindsight it makes a lot of sense. I'm reading about it now, but I'm reading old announcements, right? Mm-hmm. And when I was reading that, I was like, that's the sort of thing that keeps people calm at that time and go, okay, hey, they're just trying to make things right. They just want to make sure that they do the best that they absolutely can. But I think when projects don't have that voice and they don't have that trust with the leaders who are leading that project, that's when people go, oh shit, like I need to dump. They can't figure this out, blah, 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 blah. When in reality, you're just trying to make sure that you do things right so that you can avoid bigger problems. And the trust that your community has because they've heard you talk, because they have that trust in you, is what keeps people from panicking when, otherwise they might.
Yeah, I think, you raised brilliant points there. And I think for me, it comes down to accountability. And for me, it's like, not that I like when everything's on fire, but I feel like, yeah, bring it on. Like I'm quite happy to burden that. And I think that is quite meaningful for some people. I think people want to point the finger and blame for certain things. Like, hey, look, yeah, fine. I'm confident in the decisions we've made, and I'm confident for the rationale that we did it. And I mean, yeah, it may incur short-term loss, and that's a real unfortunate position to be in. But I think like it's really important for someone to see the long term and for someone to take the flak. And I'm quite happy to do that. But yeah, like I mean, this is I think a problem that some projects will face that don't have that sort of core central accountability. is that when shit starts going wrong, who do you turn to? So yeah, I like to pride myself in being the person to blame. I think it's a really important role to play for a project.
Yeah, I think every project needs that, because it's easy to look at things when things are going really, really well and go, okay, hey, we love this team. We love everything about them. We trust them, everything like that. When the floor is skyrocketing, like, things are great, things are easy. But if the floor starts to dip, if things aren't going so well, that's when you need to have that faith in the project, and you need to have the faith in the leaders that they're going to figure it out. And sometimes you need somebody who's willing to just kind of, take it on the chin. And, that's what you've done at certain times. And like, that's what a project needs. And that's what that community needs to feel good about the project. So, and I know that's not easy to do. I can imagine, obviously, you getting into the space, however long ago that was, it's a, you've learned a lot, obviously, throughout this experience. And I don't think there's a way to prep for this until you get into it, right? So how have your views changed on being a leader in this space from when you got into it to now?
It in a weird way, it's a similar situation to the whole legal compliance point of view. And it's like, you're not worried about that. Hey, there's no like direct regulation for this thing or that thing. And at the end of the day, like, all you can do is do what you fundamentally believe to be true. And I think people will react in a similar fashion. You need to come in here with good intentions. You need to be transparent. You not need to promise the world and say, hey, look, this is what we're trying to do, and we're going to do our best to do it. And if you're in for the ride, fucking brilliant. And if not, then that's understandable. I think like if you are going to try and front a project, you need to come forward with that kind of attitude, and like, hey, look, this is what we believe to be the case. Yes, you should be leaning into your strengths, but there's no beaten path to follow. You can only do what you fundamentally believe to be correct. The whole fucking space is completely brand new. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You can only just have a thesis and act on it. And I think the projects that are really taking off right now are people that have abided by that. But it's going to be really interesting. And I also don't think that like things that are successful now, like models that you've seen now, like I don't think if you're coming into the space brand new, starting a project, I don't think you should just be copying what other people are doing. I think you won't see the long-term implications of certain ways of navigating a problem for years down the line. You just need to come up from an individual basis. And I think that will end up being your strong point.
Yeah, I completely agree. So how much, now getting into talking, I guess, about the space overall, how much do you pay attention to what other projects are doing, whether super successful projects or not so successful projects, or projects that started off doing really well and haven't done so well since? How much do you pay attention to that and kind of learn from what they're doing?
It's done by a case-by-case basis. And I think, like, I mean, for me, we're so tunnel-visioned in building the thing that we are building that we don't really have a lot of opportunity to look up at competitors. But every now and then the project will do something and it's like, oh, wow, okay, that's just invalidated my thesis. And again, like, I think this is one of the things that DGODS is proving right now is like the attention economy is so critical to this space. I mean, it was a huge reason why I think like the platform that you have and your ability to do this podcast is incredibly powerful. I think more than anything, we need to be demanding attention or getting attention. And that's one of the things that I maybe overlooked. I tried to build a product and a project and harvest a culture, but at the end of the day, like, you need to make this experience from a user as enjoyable as possible. You need to really be guiding that user's attention through something enjoyable. And there's other like facets like that. I mean, some of our tokenomics stuff, like, there was months and months of trying to get that correct, and we took so much inspiration from failed models, correct models. But yeah, I mean, like, I try not to look at that too much what's going on. I mean, there's no point. I mean, like what they say, like, comparison is the thief of joy. I think that's so true for this. And I think that's also something you need to be like communicating top down to your community as well. They're like, oh, this project's doing that thing, or this project's doing that thing. It's like, all right, well, we still have to do what we're doing as best as we can. Do you know what I mean? There's no right or wrong way to do it.
Yeah, and I think, your project is a different project where I feel like it's truly art. Like, everything that you guys have going into it. We'll dive into your project more in a second here, but truly, I mean, I think that's what separates you guys from the rest, is that your lore is super intricate. The storyline behind everything. I'm like, damn, I want a movie. Like, I keep reading this. I'm like, where's the movie? Where's the book? Like, those are things that I could see happening at some point, because it is really, really cool. And I was like, someday somebody will completely take all of this and they'll deep dive it. Next thing you know, it'll be a 1,000-page book. Right. And I think that's there are certain projects that wouldn't make sense for. And that's where, if you're comparing yourself to every other project or things like that, obviously you're always going to notice what's happening in the industry, and there's always going to be some things that you can take away. But at the same time, your project has to be individual to, what you guys are doing and where you want to take it, because we have too many copy and paste projects in this environment. We've already seen that. I think that's one of the biggest issues with ETH projects, is that I don't see a lot of innovation. People are probably going to give me shit for saying that, but I put a shit ton of money into ETH projects in January, and I have not seen nearly the amount of innovation in the ETH projects, and it bothers the hell out of me because I see it every day in Solana, and I believe it's because a lot of people in Solana, they're fighting to get the liquidity. They're fighting to get more and more eyes and ears to the Solana space and people buying into Solana projects. And ETH, they kind of already have that because of Bored Apes, right? They have the attention and everything like that. And so I think in some regards they get lazy. And so they don't always think about what you mentioned a second ago, which is the attention economy. And you have to keep people, like, you can talk about what you want to do 6 months down the road, a year down the road, but if your project is a 0.002 floor at that point, it's not really going to matter, right? So you have to keep people's attention. You have to give people that experience along with it, because that's what keeps people in a project. That's what keeps them from dumping. That's what keeps them from listing, is when they're excited about a project, when they feel connected about a project. And that's why, I have my DGods, and people have asked me recently, like, when are you ever going to sell them? And I'm like, dude, the idea of selling my DGods makes me want to vomit, right? But yet I see the floor go up, and I'm like, shit, my DGods are worth this, but it truly means nothing to me at the end of the day, because I'm like, I'm not selling them anytime soon. I think I tweeted out today, if you retire my great-great-grandchildren, I will sell my DGods. So, but until then, it's like, the experience is what keeps me having that mindset, right? Because I love the community. I love the leaders behind the project. I love the art. I love everything about it. And that's what keeps me in it. And I think that's what people have to realize, is that you're building an experience for people, and you have to focus on that just as much as you're focusing on the, everything kind of behind the scenes.
Well, you touched on something there, which is why I'm so bullish on Solana, is the fact that I almost feel like there's like a liquidity complacency in Ethereum. You can just get away with such low effort projects, and that just can't slide in Solana. You just hundreds of projects launching every day that nobody bats an eyelid at, and that was kind of one of the things that we attempt to do with ours, is we wanted to make something so captivating that made people pay attention. And I think like one of some kind of collateral of there being such limited liquidity in Solana is the fact that the competition is fucking ridiculous, and that's pushing out the best in each other. And I think that's what's so exciting about this space right now, is that like you've got ultra competitiveness in something which still isn't being looked at. So I think like competitiveness breeds brilliant projects. And I think that when people start paying attention, and people will eventually start taking this space seriously, and they look around and they see some of the projects that are being born out of this competitiveness, they're going to be blown away. I don't think there's going to be a lot of competition. So I think when the floodgates open, it comes in real quick and real fast. I think one of the things that we need to be doing now is almost moving beyond NFTs. This needs to be enough of a creative experience, or enough of a stimulating creative experience, that like the fact that this is NFTs is second nature. I love the fact that you said, hey, look, this could one day be a movie or a book, and that was kind of like one of our hopes, was the fact that like people would pay attention to this project and not even be invested into it. They just really fuck with the artwork, and they really fuck with the story, and some of the underlying messages there, that they'll want to keep up with it. And I hope that does have the impact that we aim it to have. But I think, things like that will only present themselves over time.
Yeah. We're still so early in this. It's I think yesterday or today was the 1 year anniversary of Bored Apes coming out. And it's like we're still so early. Yeah. And we talk about you guys and DGods and a few other projects being like the OGs of Solana, and we're talking about October.
Like 6 months.
Yeah. It's crazy how much has happened in the last 6 months, and that's why I always laugh when a project has like a 2 year roadmap, because I'm like, dude, 2 years is so long. Like, obviously, it's good to have that long term mindset, and it's good to be building long-term projects, but at the end of the day, like, where are you going to be at in a week? Where are you going to be at in a month? Like, I need to know that, because that's how quickly this industry is changing. That's how quickly this space is changing. And it's cool to see how much people have adapted, because I think before people's roadmaps were a little boring, little cookie cutter and stuff like that. And now, like you said a second ago, it's the competition brings out the best in everybody. And right now we're seeing way more innovation, and it's really, really cool to see how projects are innovating and things like that, because it's completely to another level that, you know, from where we were in October.
Yeah, and it's just gonna get more competitive over time. I think like the projects you see now compared to 6 months time from here will be drastically different. In my personal theory is like a project's ability to keep people involved in the story, like you say, on a week by week basis is going to be the critical difference. Like you say, people aren't here for a 2-year roadmap. People are here for right now. And I think projects are waking up to that. And I think that's going to have a huge impact on the space and how projects conduct themselves. And like I say, net positive for Solana as a whole.
Completely agree. So another problem that we kind of have right now is that there are obviously a lot of people. If you're watching this right now, you probably own an NFT, you probably own a SOLGod, or you own something else that's in one of the top tier projects, whatever. How do we bridge the gap with people who don't have, you know, maybe they don't have the liquidity to drop, $6,000 essentially and buy a SOLGod, or people who are just brand new to NFTs in general, or people who are, you know, they hear NFTs and they cringe. Oh my God, NFTs? Seriously? If I have to hear that shit again? How do we bridge that gap? Because there definitely is that gap still existing. And how do you feel like we're going to close that gap?
By being really fucking creative. And I think that we are doing that really quickly. I mean, like people are like, oh, when are we going to see some growth? I mean, like, in what world do you see a company 60x in value in 6 months and be concerned about growth? I think we're exploding at all angles. But I think like, because there's so much interest in this and because there's so many new projects coming into this, we just need to be really fucking creative. We need to demand attention. And we're going to see that. I really do think we are going to see that. We need to be branching into digital media. We need to be bringing better story, better content, better artwork, which we will. I mean, like you said, so much of the space is so early that we haven't seen the creative talent that you'd see in the traditional world come into the space yet. And I think when you see like worldwide artists coming into it, and I mean, I sat down for dinner last night, and he was talking about some of the Hollywood influence now coming into Solana NFTs, and I was like, holy fuck! Like, there's a massive amount of talent that aren't even exposed here yet. Like, a lot of the people building here are just computer nerds. Like, what do we know about being creative? Like, we're just toying around with the technology. And I think like when we get like the truly brilliant creative minds coming into the space, people are going to be forced to pay attention to it. And I don't think it's going to be difficult. I mean, like there's a funny example recently of like Mark Zuckerberg's Meta, and he's taken like 47.5% of royalties of all sales. And it's like creative talent, like they can understand the space and they can understand how important this technology is. But where are they going to be building? They're going to be building in places which are accessible. So yeah, when it comes to like bridging the gap between people who don't give a fuck about NFTs, make them give a fuck. It's not about convincing them. It's not about saying, hey, look, there's going to be loads of money here. Like, let's make this creatively impossible to ignore. And I think we will be getting there much, much sooner than people think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the easiest things that people can do is spread the word to your friends. You know, when several of the projects that I'm really big in that I've minted, I've told friends about, hey, this mint's coming up. This is how you do it. You buy you get a Phantom wallet. This is, you buy Solana on Coinbase or wherever you're getting it. And this is how the steps to how you want to go about minting that project. And I think that's the thing that we need to do is educate people and spread the word, because once someone has that first NFT, they're hooked, and you just got to get that first one.
It's funny though, because I feel people do that naturally. Like, I don't know about you, but as soon as you found a project you're in love with, you just tell people about it. And I think that's been the network effect of this space has been incredible. And I think that's why we have seen the growth that we've seen. But like you say, the more guerrilla warfare we can be doing, the more Phantom wallets we can get in people's hands, the better.
Yeah, and I think the more, we're starting to see more and more projects that are doing more out in real life, right? Whether it's events, whether it's really, really cool merch and things like that. Like, those are things that help spread the word, I had somebody walk up to me, I was rocking an Alien Friends hoodie, and they were like, dude, what's that hoodie? And I was like, oh, it's an NFT project on Ethereum, right? And so it's like, those are the things that get people to talk about, talk about a project and want to get involved with it and everything like that. And so that's how we have to bridge the gap, is we have to get people who, the people who are are hating on NFTs right now, don't give up on those people. Like try to get those people into NFTs, because I compare this all the time. I've been in social media for a long time. I convinced so many people back in the day to take Instagram seriously and to really, really focus on becoming an influencer, right? Now everybody understands that, right? Now it's like, it's very obvious of, you know, how you can do that, how you can make a lot of money in that space and things like that. But your ability to make a lot of money in that space is way more difficult, because now everybody already understands it, right?
As long as people are hating, I'm happy. It's when people accept this space and everyone welcome it with open arms. I'm like, oh shit, like, yeah, maybe we're near the top. But at the minute, there's so much outside hatred, there's so much misunderstanding that gets me really excited. I think for as long as people aren't taking this seriously, we're in the right place. So yeah, bring it on. Like,
yeah, I mean, that means we have room to grow, right?
Oh, sure.
It's the same thing. I mean, I go back to like influencers and shit like that. When the first few people were becoming like social media influencers and making money from it, people were like, oh my God, that's fucking stupid. Who would pay you? Blah, 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 blah. Now everybody gets it, right? But once again, your ability to grow and to make money now is way more difficult in the social route, right?
Sure.
NFTs, it's going to be the same thing, is that 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, it's going to be much more difficult to make solid gains, solid investments, solid returns in NFTs, because at that point, everybody's going to know about it. Everybody's going to be a lot more educated with it and things like that. If you make the right moves right now, you can do great things. I mean, hell, if you made the right moves in October, you're a millionaire right now. So it's, you know, and I look back at, and I see some of the mistakes I made, and I'm like, holy shit, Mark. Like, I mean, first project I ever minted was a pixelated dick. No bullshit. I mean, literally first project. And I think back now and I'm like, wow, I consider myself to be decently educated in this space. And I'm like, I can't believe I minted a pixelated dick. But that's the thing. We have to learn. We have to grow. And I'm looking forward to where I'm going to be at a year from now, because I've learned a shit ton in the last 6 months. And so my goal now is to just kind of continue to bridge that gap between people who understand NFTs and people who don't, and, you know, get NFTs to become a normal part of, you know, pop culture in the world in general. And by doing that, it's spreading the word, guerrilla warfare, like you said, like getting your friends to you know, sign up for a mint, get excited about that. Giving an NFT to a friend, like if there's a low cost one that you don't mind giving away, you know, that's the cool thing that you can do to get people involved, and that's what we need to see the space grow.
Yeah, for sure, completely agree. Yeah, that's the one thing, like people really struggle with the concept of digital like ownership, and it's one of the things we were saying before, like we didn't take Bored Ape seriously because like, hey, fuck, I can just right click save this. And I think like when people own an NFT, there's a complete change in psyche, and it's quite incredible to see from an outside perspective. People kind of like the cogs are turning, they're like, oh shit, I do really own this. Yeah, like let's get NFTs into people's hands. I think that's going to be one of the most impactful things going forward.
Yeah. I mean, it truly is crazy. I mean, the digital identity that you feel towards a JPEG is nuts. I never would have seen that until I got into it. And it's like, you just have to get that first NFT.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's something I thought a lot about. And I'm like, why are people taking this space so seriously? And it's like, I think like when you take a jump into crypto, it's like you turn your back on everything you thought, like how reality or society should run. And it's like this is a whole like new self, it's a whole new persona, and I think like that's why these digital identities are so powerful right now, is because it's like people really see like their profile pictures, this is their new self, like they've been red pilled. I made a tweet about it earlier, and I think like that's why, I mean, people slept on NFTs for so long because they didn't have a use case. But I think like the symbolism and the imagery from NFTs is so exceptionally powerful, is they kind of transcend use cases, because I mean, it is bigger than that. So much of this whole experience is an emotional experience, and having the correct symbolism there is really powerful, and I think more powerful than some of the tech. You've seen it throughout history, like people coming behind teams and symbolism. I think that's what NFTs represent.
I agree. What would you say are some of the biggest lessons you've learned since getting into the space?
Jesus.
And not just as like a founder, like as just somebody in the space in general.
Understand why you're here, and understand why everybody else is here. I mean, everybody's here for different reasons. It's a bit of a controversial topic, but I think trading is one of the most damaging things to this space. I mean, coming from the philosophy of like, hey, look, what's going to make me the most short-term gain, and then I'll take my profits from there and I move to the next thing. I think we don't go anywhere there. I think like understanding like, and that also helps from a community level as well. Like when you see like some people like throwing their toys out the pram because number didn't go up in a week. Yeah, people are here for different reasons. In giving more people to invest as opposed to trade, it should be a priority. So yeah, that's been a huge lesson for me, is understanding all of the different intentions, all the different motivations, and taking every individual on a case by case basis. It's naive to expect people to be acting the same and responding to news in the same way. So although they're JPEGs, these are still individuals behind them, and just you have personalities in real life, you have personalities here. And yeah, that's been a big lesson for me.
Yeah, I think that's something that I had to learn that lesson too, is that there'd be certain times where I'm like, why are people listing this shit at, but like they would mint something and then you'd see somebody put it up for literally below mint price. Yeah. And you're like, what are you doing? Yeah. And I had to remind myself, everybody is different. Everybody's got a different personality. Everybody, attacks things differently. Some people might be doing that, honestly, for a tax loss, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's different reasons why somebody might be doing something, but I had to kind of learn that and kind of figure out like, okay, so what do I believe it takes for a project to do really, really well? And what are the things that I look for now in a project to see if I believe in it strong enough to, not just buy one, but to buy 4 or 5, right? Because, buying one, to be honest, buying one sucks, because then if it starts, it's hard to take profits. It's hard to do things like that. If you have 2, you have a little bit of wiggle room, and then obviously 3 or more. But the thing is, obviously, there's the initial investment, and it's hard to do that sometimes when, especially back in like October, November, we had so many rugs. It felt like we had a rug once a week.
But
once a day.
It's interesting there, because I mean, like what we're alluding to is coming into something within a liquid position, and I think that's some of the the social tokens that we're seeing now is providing innovation for that, and it's saying that, hey, look, I'm not forced in this position where I've got this one asset. It's saying, hey, look, if you've got these tokens, you can adjust your position as and when you need to. And like again, I think that's going to be a huge scaling solution coming forward, is because you're not putting people in these real uncomfortable positions where they have one illiquid position and they're either completely in or they're completely out. So I mean, I know I just shit on traders then, but I think like that's gonna help mitigate a lot of that, giving people more liquid positions so they can adjust that accordingly.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's like DGods is a good example of that right now, of like Dust has done really, really well. And so there's a way to play the game now involving Dust. Like it's not just playing the game whether you want to sell your DGod or when you want to list it or whatever. Now you have Dust that makes things a little bit more, you have a little bit more options as to what you want to do. And I think that's one of the exciting things that goes back to the innovation in the space. And we'll get into your tokenomics in a second. But like, I think your tokenomics make it very, very interesting for how people can kind of play the game, right? Sure. And not just the actual game you guys are building, but like just the game in general of NFTs. And so, yeah, it's a really, really interesting space, and we're so new into it. It's still crazy. It's so early. And I know we say that all the time, but it's like, man, every once in a while you just think about the fact that like literally 6 months ago, and people consider that shit OG.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the kind of the ecosystem and everything like that, and right now we're seeing some projects that tend to attack each other. What are your thoughts on that in general? And I'm not talking about necessarily the leaders of the projects, but the fan bases sometimes going at each other a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it goes back to something we were saying earlier about like, hey, there's such limited liquidity here, and people almost feel like they're fighting over a resource, which in some regard isn't false. But I think like, There's no such thing as a project doing well, which is flooding your bags. The more we should be supporting. I mean, like people are like, hey, look, your competitors have just done this, or they've just onboarded that celebrity. I'm like, fucking brilliant. Like, let's bring more attention, more power to it. I think any project success is good success. And like it is part and parcel of like human tribalism. Like, hey, I'm team A, you're team B. You're this NFT project, I'm a that project. That we can't be friends. Which is just crazy. But I think like that does tie back into like this space being so early. And I think like, well, I don't know, actually. I feel like I'd like to say it is this space grows over time and people realize that, hey, they don't need to fight over liquidity. But I think like people do just love compartmentalizing each other into like different teams. So yeah, I don't know how we combat that. But I think like the more we can understand that like, hey, our interests are aligned here. We all have a common goal. And one project's success is the success of mine in a weird way, and that's real difficult for people to realize. But yeah, and as well, the other thing to remember, like we're online with strangers. Like the internet is as toxic as it comes. So it's like you need to be ready to handle the heat. You need to understand the individuals that are here. a lot of social isolation, a lot of people that spend most of the time behind computers. And that ties back into another really interesting thing about NFTs and like the individuals that we bring in is like we're providing a solution to people's like social isolation. And in doing that, you also onboard the baggage that can come with people that are isolated. So you do get extreme personalities here, especially when you throw into the mix money. So like just from like an individual perspective, if you happen to be listening to this, like you just be really careful of how you approach people, especially the toxic people. Chances are there's good reason for that. And again, it ties back like these are individuals behind the profile pictures and we should treat them as such. But yeah, apart from that, all of our bags are the same. Like, let's pump each other. It's like we're all in this together.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I was in your guys' Discord earlier today, and I was like, yeah, man, I don't have one yet. Like, I want a Soul God. It's not as easy to just be like, oh yeah, just buy one. It's you know, it takes a little bit more effort than that, a little bit more decision making than that. But you know, I think it's like it's awesome to see projects doing really, really well. Like, I want to see Solana Monkey Business doing really, really well. Yep. I want to see you guys doing really well. I want to see DGen Apes doing really well. Like, I want to see everybody doing well, regardless if I have one or not, because in order for us to get to the Ethereum levels and beyond, we need to see projects hitting 1,000 floor, right? We need to see 2,000 floor, and that's possible. Like, for people who don't know, right now, technically Bored Apes, if you put it in Solana terms, are like 4,200 floor, right? So we have the ability to get to that level, but we need to do that by making the Solana space a fun environment to be in. And like, you know, it's been really cool to see that with the podcast. Like, I feel like I've gotten a lot of love. And when you guys announced that you were coming on the podcast, like the love I've gotten from the SOLgods community has been fucking awesome. And I love to see it because, you know, previous to this, you know, a lot of my love comes from the DGod community, which obviously I'm in and I love those people. But, you know, seeing it now from the SOLgods, now I'm like, well, shit, now I need a SOLgod. But no matter what, like, I'm rooting for you guys exponentially because the community has been so kind, you know? And I think that's something that we want to continue to push is just, guys, be nice. Just like you said, there's a person behind every different profile photo, and we don't need to, it's not a competition. We don't need to be saying, like, I think this project's going to be bigger than this project, whatever. Those are just opinions, and at the end of the day, like, okay, we'll all see in hindsight, but, like, just root for the space in general, and by doing that, just be fucking nice.
Yeah, and at the same time as well, like the negative's always the thing you remember, but I mean, there's so many brilliant individuals that are doing like nothing but positive things. I mean, like we spoke about him earlier, like Nom, like I don't know if you'd be watching, but like just a completely selfless person that just wants nothing but this space to succeed. And there's a number of examples. I mean, Korg, like, you know, a massive frontier for the XL Apes, and then someone sold out the position. He's like, oh, you ain't getting away that easy, and then just gave him an XL Ape back, and that's like $3,700. Like, that's not like just a blasé like gift of kindness. Like, these are genuine people that are caring for each other. So it's like, as much as there is this like toxic element to it, there's also like, you do really see the best in people here. And I think that comes from like, we've been battling this space out for a long time. Like, these are people we've suffered with for ages. Like, this is family at this point for a lot of it. Yeah, so I think it is as important it is to sort of combat the negative. I think it's also really important to give a platform to the amount of positivity that goes around here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part that I try to tell people who are not in the NFT space. I'm like, dude, the community aspect of it sounds so corny until you're in it. Until you're in it and you understand it. And, you know, once again, like hopping in your Discord, there's a guy in your Discord, Q-Boss. I'm going to give him a shout out. My man has been awesome. He's been super, super nice. He's been super kind. He's posted a lot on Twitter. He's posted in Discord. He's done so many things. And it's like, that's a guy who doesn't know me, but he's somebody who's been, you know, he's watched the podcast or whatever, and now he's just been super, super supportive. He sent over some questions that I could put in the podcast, like things like that. That's how we do this shit. Like, that's the stuff that I love to see because it's that feel-good stuff, and everybody loves that. We all need that. The world's tough.
I mean, I've spent... I've been in my Discord 24/7 for so long, and it's only now that this project's like snowballed into position I'm having to like kind of step away because it's just not an efficient use of my time. But like, there's so many individuals in that Discord that are just like incredible human beings. They're people I know like quite intimately at this point. I mean, like I met up with some of the community members in LA, like Bags and Shu, and it's like we met them, and it was like, there's like that 5 minutes of like awkwardness when you're trying to meet somebody for the first time, but then after that, it's like, oh shit, this is family. Like, I already know you, I know what you're into, I know your sense of humor, and I think there's something really powerful there, and I guess that ties back to earlier. Like, we've just come out of like a pandemic and so much like social isolation. It's like there was such a demand for true community, and for us to like get behind a symbol, get behind an image, get behind like a project, and have that common goal has been really what's the word, healthy for people. And that there really is some love there, and there really is like some social connectivity. And I mean, like, I know people will come back there and say, hey, look, like, if it's not in real life, then it's not real. It's just not true. Like, I mean, like, that boy as well, like, shouts out to that boy, like a member of our team. Like, I've never met the guy in my life. And I remember, like, when my dog passed away, like, he made me like a little NFT, and he like put that in my wallet or whatever. And it's like, I don't even know this guy, and like, he's like family to me now. And there's so many people like that.
Yeah, that's fucking sweet. I love to hear stories like that. Like, that's the sort of stuff that I love about NFTs, and that's the stuff that I get excited about when other people are getting into the space. Is like, when people are kind in this space, like, it goes so far, and it is so nice to have, like, you know, I talked about this with Frank before, but like, it's a world where like our differences don't exist, right? Like, whatever your political leanings or your religious leanings or your thoughts on this or thoughts on that, it doesn't matter in this, right?
We've been
like,
leveled.
Yes, we're all just people on the internet with fucking JPEGs, right? Like,
Let's go.
It's cool. It really does just kind of foster a great environment of all let's just be all fucking nice to each other, and I'd love to see it. So. Next thing I want to talk about in this is, you know, we've seen a lot of times of the, like, buy the hype, sell the news kind of behavior. So how do we kind of stop that from happening? Because a lot of times it feels like projects, they put something up that they've been hyping up, and if they don't have something immediately after that to drop, then people are always constantly looking to sell right after that comes out.
Again, like, it comes back to, like, I think it's just this trading mentality, and it's also like project founders, like, willingness to like incentivize that, especially how they communicate certain messages. It's like, hey, look, we're going to release this thing and the floor's going to go crazy, and it's like, you shouldn't be like birthing that into your community. Like, again, like, you should be providing people with investment opportunities, not trading opportunities. And I think, like, the more that we keep the focus on like short-term gains, like NFA, we're about to do this thing or that thing, and I'm like, no, like, fundamentally, what are you building here, and why is this going to be relevant in a year's time? And I think, like, the more we can like get with that messaging, we're going to see this less of like this sell the news type thing. But like, there's really like smart marketing ways around this now that we're seeing around, like, people, like, as soon as it gets to that like sell the news event, let's like bang, like the next like huge thing is happening. But yeah, I think like the only way that we can like rid that mentality is giving people legitimate investment opportunities here, not trading opportunities. I think that's the one thing that's really holding us back at the minute.
Yeah, and I think it's like the you know, kind of how you said earlier of like, if you're doing super innovative shit, like that's going to keep people in it, you know?
For sure.
And that's what I like to see, and that it goes back to why the Solana space right now, I'm loving it, because everyone's constantly innovating, and that's keeping people from dumping projects. And that's why we're seeing so many projects that are, you know, 5,000 plus supply, and they've got 100 listed. That's awesome to see. Like, that's great shit, and it goes to show that those leaders are building something that people, well, I don't want to sell this. I don't even want to think about that. And that's really cool to see, because they're giving those builders the opportunity to build. People need the opportunity to build. You got to give them it. Otherwise, you know, 4 tanks and it's like that opportunity goes away. So we got to be patient with the leaders just as much as they have to be patient and understanding of the fact that people have put their money into this, and so they're going to have expectations. It's everybody has to understand each other's viewpoint, you know? And I feel like now more than ever we're seeing that, and that's why I think we're seeing more founders being vocal to kind of know, okay, hey, we know that our fan base wants to hear from us. We know that our family wants to hear from us, essentially. And so we're going to give them that. They're going to hear from us. And then in return, we need you guys to be patient with us, right? Like, we're trying to do epic shit. We're not rugging you here, okay? We're trying to do epic shit. Give us a little bit of time, and that's what you're going to see. And so, you know, as long as we still continue to see projects building like that, I think we're going to start to see, you know, more of that, you know, patience that we need.
Yeah, it's also difficult as well. Like, I mean, it's one of the things that, like, we've noticed, like, when you push back a delay and people are like, hey, like, 2 weeks is not okay. And I'm like, why not? Like, were you waiting to sell? Like, and if that's the case, like, I mean, for the people that had like the 2 year horizon, like a 2 week delay, like, isn't even a blip on the radar. Like, when you understand like the full scope of what we're trying to build here. And again, like, it keeps coming back to that trading mentality. And I think, like, it's a shame, because that's the one reason we are here, is because people have seen this as such a financial opportunity that you get so many people flooding into it, but then that becomes the topic of conversation. And then it's our job as project founders to provide them with something that's more stimulating than that gives them a reason to like hold on to this and come for the whole journey, and not just think like, hey, if I buy this picture in 2 months, I can sell it for 10x the price. Like, there's so much more here than just that.
I completely agree. So if you had an opportunity to speak directly to your community right now or to other communities, what would you say to them?
breathe, breathe. Like there's so much ahead of us, and like while our competitive change is still fundamentally worse than us, like I don't think we're in any reason to get antsy. Like we shouldn't even be looking this on like a month by month basis. Like if you can take this space seriously and understand what projects you're trying to build, like for the bull case of Solana over the next 5 years, on the basis that all goes is we hope, like that's life changing shit. So just like, yeah, just relax. Like there's no real rush, and there's so much opportunity here. Like the whole space isn't just going to disappear overnight. So you just get comfortable. And I know it's difficult because it's been 6 months and it's just exploded and everything feels like it's moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And as soon as it slows down by 10 miles an hour, you're like, oh, is it over? No, not at all. Like the next 5 years, like I do genuinely believe that we will see Solana projects flipping Ethereum, Ethereum projects. And I think like when one or two start doing that, like the dominoes will fall. And people will really start paying attention to this space. And that's going to happen over like a multi-year horizon, not like a multi-week horizon. So yeah, just breathe. Like there's a complete frenzy at the minute. And there doesn't need to be. Yeah, well, I don't know why we're panicking in the fastest growing industry on the planet.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes we see everybody trying to time out the tops and bottoms of certain things.
Yeah.
Newsflash, it's not possible,
Yeah.
okay? Let's just give up that idea.
Yeah.
You cannot predict when something's going to bottom out, when something's going to top. Dude, it's impossible. There's software that tries to do that, and they still can't get it right, okay? It is incredibly, incredibly difficult to perfectly time out everything. So instead of, like we talked about earlier, it's like the trade mentality. Look at this as an investment mentality. If you truly believe in a project, let it breathe, give it time. You know, I get asked all the time, when are you going to sell your DGOD, whatever? It's like, dude, if it's at 300 right now, what's stopping it from going to 500? What's stopping it from going to 1,000? Like, there's nothing that makes me believe that it's going to stop. So why would you get out of it? Like, give that, if you believe in it as an investment, then stop trying to time it out and go, okay, well, if I sell it now, then if it dips down to 200 next week, I can buy another one and still have 100 left over. It's like, dude, and what if it goes to 700 next week, you know? And then you're screwed. So be patient. If you believe in something, let it breathe, give it time. But, you know, it's you can't try to time out these tops and bottoms perfectly. You're never going to do that.
The only slight rebuttal I would have to that is that, like, I mean, a lot of people have come into this space, like they just bought a picture, they maybe even overinvest into a picture, and then they say they go up 200x. And if it's life-changing money at the table, take it and walk away from it and forget about it. Like, as much as I believe in like the complete trajectory of this space, and I couldn't be more convicted. But I mean, like, it breaks my heart for people to like have their lives changed in front of them and then they let it go. So if you're overinvested and there's life-changing money on the table, just take it and walk. Just take it and walk.
I completely agree. Let me preface that. I do completely agree with that. Yes, there are definitely times you hear. I watched a Netflix documentary the other day where a guy was like, I took out like an $80,000 loan and put it into a shit coin, and I was like, Jesus. And
there's so much of that.
Yeah. So if you're doing anything crazy, if this project goes to zero and you're screwed, then yeah, it might be a time that you want to sell. Like, don't screw yourself. Be smart about it. Yeah. It's just, you know, you have to try to, I guess, like, what I'm talking about is for people who already have a surplus. They're doing well. And
trying to move profits from one thing to the
next. Like that is brutally difficult to try to figure out, and you're going to just stress yourself out and stop having fun in that environment. You know, the whole thing of this is let's just have some fun. This shit has been fun. You know, let's keep the fun going. So we do that by just, you know, creating that good environment and everything like that, and not always looking at everything as like, well, if I do this, I might be able to get a 5 sol profit. You know, once again, Take the profits when you need to, and if it's life-changing money and things like that, of course take that. I've seen people that recently posted like, I got the down payment of my house paid off, I got my student loans paid off. Like that shit, that's fucking sweet. Like those stories, oh my God, they give me life. I love that stuff. But for the people that are like, well, you know, I'm trying to time out the, you know, peaks and valleys and whatnot, that stuff, I'm just like, dude, good luck with that.
Yeah. It's funny as well, because I get like people, I get some horrible DMs, don't get me wrong, but I also get some like really touching DMs and being like, hey man, like I just bought into this project because I love the community, I love what you guys are doing, and I've just sold now and I've just paid off like however much like debt I was in, and it's like, I'm really sorry to be leaving this project, but it's like it's something that I don't really get a lot of time to reflect on, And it's just it's so rewarding to hear that I can have any kind of like positive impact on somebody's life, especially as significant as that. So I mean, don't trade, but if you want to sell your investment because it's made a life-changing difference, please do so.
Can you talk about the impact that you think celebrities or athletes or anything like that have on the space? Like when somebody mints into or buys into a project or anything like that, do you have any thoughts on the impact that they might have?
I think we should take it on a case-by-case basis. And I also think like celebrities buying Bored Apes aren't buying Bored Apes because Bored Apes are going out and getting celebrities to buy Bored. They're buying them because they want to do that. And if celebrities are buying into projects because they want to buy into the projects, fucking amazing. But I think we need to be real careful with like some of these endorsements that we have coming in. Like you can smell it a mile away, and it's just going to give a real bad feel to the whole space if we're just paying people to come in and represent a project if they don't truly believe it. But I think like on the whole, it's net positive. I mean, like people like Shaquille O'Neal coming into the space is incredible. Like he's a fucking legend. Like of course we want him here. And he's going to help tremendously with mass adoption. But in the same regard, like Floyd Mayweather making his NFT projects and saying like, it's got a bit of a bad smell. Like I feel like you're kind of here for the wrong intentions. And I feel like some of the celebrity endorsements, you can feel that way as well. Like when a rapper gets into a project and you're like, how the hell is he ever going to heard of that project? Like who's buying that? I mean, some people do, don't get me wrong, but I mean, I don't know. It depends on your philosophy. It's net bullish for mass adoption. But I just think I hope that we're real careful with some of these endorsements and we don't lean too heavily into it, because I think the trade-off isn't there. It benefits them way more than it does us.
Yeah, you can definitely tell when people are like actually in the shit. They know what they're talking about and stuff like that. And then people who are getting paid to rep something. If you could have anybody right now, any celebrity, anybody of all time, buy one of your Soulgods right now, who would that be?
Damn. Any celebrity? I couldn't possibly. I mean, I'm gonna. I mean, like Joe Rogan, for example, would be fucking huge. But that would just be from the impact. Yeah,
I'll say somebody. How about that? I'll give you a second to think about it. If we saw like a big time movie director buy one, like I could see like a James Cameron or somebody like that buy one, because the art is such a main focus of yours and the lore and things like that, that I could see somebody who's in the movie industry being like, I want to buy one of these, because it almost feels like a Lord of the Rings before Lord of the Rings, right? Like it's got a really cool feeling to it. So I can see somebody in that space getting it.
Yeah, I mean, like it was kind of like when I did the NFT LA conference, I had a movie director come over and he was talking about the project and he was like, hey, I can see this being like a Netflix series or whatever. And I was like, oh shit, like, oh, thank you so much. Like, we really did try to make this a captivating story, and for other people to like acknowledge that it is being huge for us. I think that'd be a brilliant example of someone that can like gets into this project for the fact that, hey, look, they see potential here, and they want to bolster that and turn it into something bigger. That'd be incredible.
Yeah, I agree. So, all right. So next, let's actually get into Soulgods. And so what my goal of this is to help kind of break it down for people, because even when I first started looking into Soulgods, I was like, man, this shit is so complex because it's so detailed and it's so thorough that you can't just take 2 seconds and kind of understand it. And so, one of my goals with this podcast was for people who are in the Soulgods community to send this to somebody if they want their friend to understand it or something like that. So I wanted to break it down for people. So basically what we have is we have the Fracture, which is your overall project. Sure. And underneath that, we have 3 factions, right? We have the Gods, we have the Bridged, and we have the Forgotten. The Bridged and the Forgotten are not out yet. Am I right so far?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So we have the Gods is your Genesis collection. That's what the Soulgods are. It's going to be, eventually your branding is going to pivot from Soulgods to the Fracture.
Should probably be that by the time this video comes out.
It's coming out in like 2 days. So, okay. There we go. Well, that's awesome. And so it's going to be, so people will know this as the Fracture moving forward, and then you have the 3 factions underneath that.
Correct.
Factions, Fracture, people, get them. We got to get that part figured out, okay? That took me a second when I was writing that down. And so the way that people get those is that those 2 collections, the Bridged and the Forgotten, the next 2 collections, are going to be airdropped essentially to people who are holding a Soul God as they earn the God coin. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so how did you guys, without getting too much into the tokenomics of that yet, how did you guys come up with the idea of Soulgods to begin with?
So the gods originally, like, again, like when I came to the space originally, there wasn't like a profile picture that I really felt like rapping. And I mean, my phone background for as long as I can remember was by Giorgio de Chirico. And he went through this like mannequin phase. And I think there's something really powerful about like a faceless figure that doesn't really have an identity. And you take various like aspects around that image to kind of like get an understanding of that like person. And I kind of felt like that was indicative of the space at the minute. It's like, hey, look, we don't really know who these PFPs are, and the only way we can judge the PFP is by the content they write. And that was like the original incentive for the gods was like, hey, look, these are like these anonymous characters, like they're anonymous in real life. And if you want to judge that anonymous character, you need to take a deep dive into who that person is. And it's really cool to see people bringing meaning onto that. It's almost like a blank canvas. And that was the original reason of the gods, because it felt like a real nice opportunity to like reflect what was going on with like online personalities and anonymity.
Yeah, I mean that's brilliant. So how'd you come up with then like the lore and everything? Because when I read that, are you writing that?
Yeah, well, it's been me and a couple of the core team. Yeah.
I don't know how you begin to write that. I'm reading it and I'm like, first off, I got to read this back 3 times to make sure I got it all. But I'm like, this is so beautiful and well written. And then I'm over here writing the most basic sentence structures right now as I'm writing this shit. And you guys are out here like writing art. And so, I mean, it's amazing. So job well done to you and everybody else as part of the core team writing that.
Appreciate it.
And so, how did you guys start off with the lore?
Again, like you create these like these beings and people just want to know more about them. And it kind of birthed like this situation that we're in. Like I mean, some of the teams have certain feelings about like the human relationship with technology and development and where it's leading down the way. And this is some of the underlying concept that the Bridged is alluding to. In the gods represented a point in humanity where we've taken that too far, and these are supposed to like be like the governing force of the cosmos, so to speak. And like, I mean, we try to represent it in our logo where you have like this continuous circle and then you've got like this abrupt line that fractures it. And this is what the gods represent. They're like this catalyst event where like humanity has gone way too far and it's just beyond like rational normality. And these beings have come to initially ascend the world, but obviously like not to dive too much into the details of the lore, but there was something that went wrong, and now we're in that this post-apocalyptic world where you have these 3 factions that are all sort of fighting for resource. But there's so much of the story that we haven't made public yet. I mean, like I took so much inspiration from BioShock. I don't know if you're familiar with the game, but it's brilliant how they did that, where like you're just dropped into this environment and you don't know what the fuck's going on and you're just looking around for clues. And that's kind of how like we've been dropping the lore, is like we do like a picture and we drop a clue, but we don't give it any context. And like people that are like really immersed in the project, they like take bits and pieces from here and there and they're like piecing together like this story. And we want to be leaning into that as much as possible. And it goes back to like making this like an immersive experience in trying to go just above and beyond just generic sort of NFT projects. Like we wanted this to feel like an experience. And the written lore there was like subtext to that. So you have like a nice introduction to this. And there's going to be a ton coming out soon that is related to our scaling solution. But obviously like, as this project snowballed into something massive or to what it is now, we had to take the time to make sure that the model was correct. Like as much as I love the creativity side of things, like this needs to make sense as a model. And that's been one of the things that we've been learning, like is we've been speaking to like various VCs, various like developers, tokenomics experts, and that the lore is brilliant because it allows you to take some of the complicated stuff and fit it into the story in a really seamless way. Like, I mean, like it ties back to what we were saying about Ethereum earlier. Like this needs to feel like Web 2. I don't want to have to be marketing the tokenomics. The tokenomics just wants to feel intuitively right. And it's the same with the story, and it's the same with the competing factions. And that's what we use the lore to do, is to kind of dress up some of the nerdy stuff. So you forget about it and you can just dive into this experience, kick back and relax.
Yeah, I mean it's all so cool. I mean, I'm looking forward to even just like, so when's the next chapter coming?
Shortly.
No alpha drop yet on that. Can't say yet.
There's going to be like a coming of age couple of weeks coming soon, and we're being really cautious with how we lead up to that. I mean, for the next like 7 weeks, we've got like something game changing happening every week. Like,
okay,
is we for so long it's felt like an elastic band like pulled the whole way back, and we're just ready to like go. And now we're like finally at that point. So like the next 7 weeks are going to be ruthless, and I'm really excited for that. And then following that, we've kind of got like this maturation point of the whole project, and that's relevant to like the strategy game, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later. And that in my head is where the marketing really starts. I mean, like I've said this before, like as far as I'm concerned, like we haven't even started marketing yet. We haven't even built the product yet. This is just like a creative economy. Like people are here like, hey, look, I get what you're trying to build, and we'll come along for the ride. And we're trying to reward those early adopters, people that can see the vision before the vision has been actualized. And we've harvested a really brilliant forward-thinking community as a result of that. I think the staying power of our community has been insane. So a lot relevant to the lore. It will be coming out, and it will be coming out in this kind of like massive event.
There we go. I'm excited for this. So do you have a favorite then? Like a favorite faction?
Gods.
Okay.
Gods, hands down.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all about the gods. Like, I mean, it's like this. The whole thing is like real personal to me. Like some of the art. I mean, like it was my phone background for as long as I can imagine. And it's like the way this has been like brought up is like my wildest dream. It's been an incredible journey, and the gods will always be the symbol of that. I don't think I'll ever. King Skelly is me at this point. But it is really nice to like lean into some of like the other aspects, like the bridge, like. There's so much creative freedom that we can have with these factions, and especially with the game that we do have coming out down the line. There's so much different avenue to explore, so many different aesthetics. And it's like one of the things we were really conscious of when we made the gods is like, hey, look, this isn't going to resonate with everyone. This is like kind of like this gothic feel. Some of it is maybe a little bit darker. And some people just don't fuck with that. So we were really conscious with the factions that each one's going to have like a slightly different aesthetic appeal. And we're going to try and explore that as much as possible. For me, yeah, it's always going to be the gods.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm excited to see the other art collections because I remember, man, I think I showed you the receipts. I had a message from back in October where I was like, these are super dope. Yeah. And I've been rugged so many times back then that I was like, I can't ape into another project because I was just taking L after L after L.
It's funny because I remember that time when we did launch and it was the most bearish the market had looked in ages, and we were like, can we launch now, really? And unfortunately we did, and like I remember like Chad God, one of the other founding members, he did like Soulgods ended the bear market and ended up getting like 500 likes because it really did feel like that.
Yeah.
And it also like, but psychologically that was huge for the team. And it's also huge like, as we roll things out because people were like, oh, you're not trying to time it, like the market's really good right now, do you not want to drop this, that, and that? It's never made a difference to us. We were born in a bear market. We love this shit. Yeah.
That was a Bane comment right there. We were born in the dark. You were merely or what is it? What is the quote?
We merely adopted it.
Yeah, you merely adopted. We were raised in it. You guys were born in the bull market or in the bear market. That's amazing. I love that. So how did you guys come up, I guess, with the different art collections? You said you wanted to make them a little bit different so that each person can, people can kind of relate to one or the other. But in terms of like the creative process, how did that look?
Yeah, having creative integrity is number one for us. We took a little bit of time with the bridge because we tried some things out. They weren't quite working. So we took the time to make sure we got them correct, and I couldn't be more proud of how they're looking right now. I don't think a lot of people are ready for what's about to drop. But yeah, it is important that we had like a real solid foundation. I mean, like the gods took most of their inspiration from Giorgio de Chirico, and the bridge taken a lot of inspiration from Simon Stalenhag, who's like a great sort of tech apocalyptic kind of themes with his artwork about like how the stuff that we're obsessed with is eventually going to be the end of us, and that's kind of like the underlying message of the bridged. So we took a lot of inspiration from there, and then try to like play this out. I mean, obviously the law helps a bunch. Like what are kind of some of the traits that would be relevant to like an upgraded human's day-to-day life, etc. And then the Forgotten as well are going to have their own artistic inspiration. But yeah, it always starts from a single influence. Interestingly enough, Simon Stalenhag is a huge opponent of NFTs, which was unexpected. But I'm trying to open up a dialogue with him and sort of talk out some of his concerns. And again, like it ties back to what we were saying earlier. Like we're so early. Like people, they just won't give the space the time of day. They have a certain opinion about it, and that's just their reality. That's exciting. because it means that we've got loads to prove wrong. We know what we're building here. We know our chain. We know. I mean, one of the main concerns about the environmentally friendly, like we know Solana is like a fraction of the energy consumption of like a Google search, which is incredible. And it's like we've got so much here to prove, and we know we're correct, which is exciting. But yeah, so sorry, back to the art. Yeah, it always takes inspiration from a singular artist and a singular art style.
Yeah, no, and to go to what you just said there a second ago, it goes back to we are so early, and so I look forward to when he eventually buys one of yours, because I know he will.
I'm confident.
I have no doubt that eventually the people who are hating on it and whatnot, it's because it's so different, and it's because on paper it does kind of sound stupid. Like a lot of the shit we're doing, like on paper, I'm like, yeah, okay, this sounds kind of fucking stupid until you get into it, right?
It was one of the main reasons I'm anonymous. Is like I don't give a fuck if you guys know who I am. It's people back at home. It was like, how do I explain this? How do I explain this to my family?
But then they see it now. So what? How does your family feel about it now?
Not many people know.
Really?
Yeah, no one. It helps me, and it helps me. Like again, like this is the first like real situation I've been like properly doxed. But yeah, it really helps me to detach my life from this. I mean, I just tell people I'm doing tech stuff and I'm really busy. But yeah, apart from that, not many people really know.
What about when you like pull up in a Bentley someday?
I'm not one for buying things. Yeah, I still live in my same flat, still drive my same car. Yeah, same old. Just
is there anything that you've done since this has started to skyrocket and whatnot? Is there anything where you've said, you know what, I'm gonna treat myself and get this, even something minimal?
I mean, I've bought some NFTs. That's about it, really.
There we go. Keeping that liquidity in the market. Yeah. We love to see it. So how did you guys decide to do a supply of 666?
That ties back to the position in the market. Like nothing was selling out at the time. And I remember listening to a Big Brain Spaces, and he was like, "We're just waiting for a collection." Because I mean, I think some collections were like going way beyond 10K, and this was before like the 10K meta. In high supplies were just mad bearish. Ironically enough, DGods minted like a week before us, and they had like a really high mint price as well, and they smashed out the bat. But we didn't feel like we were in a position to do so, so we wanted like a reasonable supply. And I mean, our mint price was like 0.66 SOL. Like we had like such a small fundraise out the bat. I said this to the team so many times. People are like, what we're trying to build here is so ambitious, and we didn't really have the funds to do so, but it's made us so damn efficient, and it's made us so damn creative, like especially from like an advertising point of view as well, like being really selective of where we put our capital. And it's also made us better to like run this as a business, and understanding like, hey, look, the expenditure is going to be this, and what's the return of that going to be? And I mean, like, this is the first, it's weird calling it a business, but this is the first business I've ran, because I came straight from being a student. And lessons like that are invaluable. Yeah, so like, yeah, the supply at the time was just like, hey, look, we wanted this project to do well. We didn't want to just go for a huge fundraise and risk the integrity of the project, because back then it was all about the art, and it was all about putting out some cool digital identities for people, and people loved it. Yeah, so that was the main reason. And obviously the 6666 is like that kind of satanic religious like vibe to it as well, which was reflective on the project.
Yeah. So now, as you guys have been building out your team, how have you gone about doing that? Is it people that are always like buying into the lore? Is it people who have been in the project that you guys have kind of elevated? How have you gone about building out your team?
The team expansion has been like scary to watch. It's been like huge. And in the same regard as well, like we have people that come into the project with the best intentions, but they have their ambitions are too high. They can't do the things that they say they can do, and they get replaced by the next most hungry person. And like our team right now is massive, and it's growing quicker by the day. And the amount of talent coming. I mean, we sat down for dinner with some of the smartest people in the space right now, and people are real hungry to get involved in a project like this, which is real humbling for me, being able to work with people of that caliber. And it's also a lot of responsibility. Like we need to make sure like, hey, look, these people could be doing some incredible work for countless projects, but they're choosing to come work with us. So you better be damn fucking sure that you've got the best platform possible for them to be building on. so yeah, like the team has just been snowballing, and there's been people that have come, there's been people that have gone, but like yeah, it just compounds. Like the fracture is just an organism, and it just will not stop growing. Like it's got to the point where I've like lost control of it now. Like people that I've never even heard of are like writing articles about us, and they're like, oh hey, I've coordinated with this person, and we're gonna do this for you, and I'm like, thank you, but like, who are you? Like, and there's so much of that, and I think that like kind of speaks to the staying power of this project is like people take ownership of it. And I love to see that.
What is the biggest obstacle that you had to overcome in the development of the fracture?
Individuals. Again, like we're dealing with anonymous people online. In people come in here with like different intentions. So it's like and as well, like the amount of individuals that have the skill set to build here is so limited. And we expect so much of people like that. And I mean, like some of the developers that we've had come in, they'll work themselves to the bone in silence, and won't tell anyone. And it's like the obstacle for me is like I just assume that they can do their job, and it's only like I come back like after 3 days, like, oh, hey, how you getting on? And they're like, oh yeah, fine. I'm like, where are we at on this thing? And he's like, and it's like the obstacle for me is learning that like every individual has their imperfection, and it's like you don't need perfect individuals. Like you just need to make it work. And it's like understanding what are people's strengths, what are people's weaknesses, and how to approach them in like a pragmatic and solvable way. And I think like that personally, like that's the thing that I think I've got the best at from where we first started. I've had to like roll up my sleeves and get involved in a lot, and get to know individuals that I work with really quite well. Like a lot of time spent on the phone with them. But yeah, like that for anyone that's trying to build in the space, like that's a huge obstacle, is like understand the individuals you're working with. And that's not only talking about people within your team, that's talking about people from other marketplaces, advertisers, conferences. People have got all kinds of motivations, and you need to be able to sniff them out. And that was never a skill set that I've had to train before. But yeah, it's something I'm drastically getting better at with time.
Yeah, totally fair. So how do you find a balance right now between being patient and developing the aspects of the fracture that take a little bit more time, and then also knowing that this is a super fast-paced environment, and if you take too long to do something, then, you know, kind of the hype can die down? How do you find a balance between the two?
It's real difficult. And like, again, people are here for such like short-term gain, and people are here to trade your project. And it's like, I mean, like recently with the 2-week delay that we had, that was really difficult, because people were like, hey, look, I bought this because you said this was going to be available on this date. And I'm like, understand the time horizon that the team have here. Like we're building for 5 years. So like for me, it was a no-brainer. Like we need to make certain decisions that will have positive implications down the line or negative. And that involved like pushing away short-term assets. I was like, hey, sure, we could have had like this fundamentally flawed staking platform go live, and number may have gone up and we would have made a ton in revenue. But it's like we're so focused on that long-term goal. Like I cannot stress that enough. Like everything we do, like is this going to be applicable and relevant in 5 years? And if it's not, we're not following it. So it's like, it's difficult, because you need to be accountable, and you need to be the person that's like taking the heat. But like for us as the team, like we knew it was the correct decision. But yeah, it just involves an element of detachment, an element of like understanding like what are the goals here, what are we trying to get at. Our goal has never been short-term gain, and we'll never sort of abide by that. So yeah, so like it's just real difficult to try and like to shoulder some of the criticism for the benefit of the long term. But I mean, like time after time, have we proved that strategy effective? I mean, it's some of this. I mean, like, we sat around like a 3-4 floor price forever, and people are like, "Oh, you should get this out. You should get that out." And I'm like, "Well, no, because that's not relevant to what we're trying to build here." And it's like, you can see that now. And I think like if we were to do some of the stuff that was being suggested, I mean, like, it's just a stupid example of like baby gods or like female gods or something. It's like, oh yeah, we could do an airdrop here, and that brings. It's like, well, no, that's not relevant to the project, and I dread to think where we'd be now, as a consequence of doing that. So yeah, like it's an easy decision for us to turn away short-term upside for the longer. But yeah, like managing it is real difficult. Like so much of all of this is mental. And again, for like people building in this space, they'll understand it, like how difficult it is to manage your mental in this. But I think people that take their mental seriously and manage it effectively are going to do really well, because it's not going to get any easier.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. It's going to be a like you said, you got a wild 7 weeks ahead of you, and then it's not like it dies down after that.
It just gets faster.
Yeah. So is there anything you would like to do with the project that you think it's either too early to do, or it's something that it's too big, it's not possible right now, but something you'd like to do further down the line?
I would love to lean into our shit posting a bit more. We've got some real funny characters in our team, and like, yeah, they're funny guys, and I'd love to like let them loose, but like we obviously need to be like conscious of like brand consistency and that. But yeah, like, I mean, that's some of the things. Like I never really took my personal account too seriously, but now like I'm understanding like the significance of the main account and the significance of like my account, and like some of our like other founders as well. Like they kind of have freedom to like be a bit more like that. But yeah, that's the main thing. Like I think like we really neglect our like our sense of humor. And you see it in the Discord, of course. Everyone's taking a piss out of each other 24/7 in there, which is funny because like people like see our projects and they see it's real serious and that, and then they come into the Discord and it's just full of the funniest fuckers you've ever met. And it's probably not something you'd expect. So that would be something that would be like quite nice to leverage into the project. But like you say, we're at too precarious of a stage to start like experimenting with that. For right now, it's like, I mean, like one of the things that like I noticed even from speaking with yourself is like, oh, you've got like the fracture, and then you've got these 3 factions, and what does this mean? And that it's because like we haven't developed the project fully yet. We're still in like this building process. So we need to be super conscious of how we're marketing this. We don't want to be confusing people. We want to be boiling down that complexity as much as possible, which has been a big focus for us. But I think like once we do get a bit more established, yeah, we're going to be having a ton of fun on social media.
Yeah, and I think that rebrand will help out a lot too, because now that it'll be underneath the fracture, it's a lot easier to understand.
Yeah.
You know, before that, I was kind of like, wait, so I would hear you guys like tweet random shit like fracture, faction, you know, this, and I'm like, dude, I'm so lost. Like, how does this? I need a diagram with how this is all laid out, right? Yeah. Now I get it. You know, I spent the time, and obviously we're having this conversation now, and it helps out a ton. And obviously, I hope this helps out everybody else to understand everything too, because it makes so much sense once you take a second and understand it all. And then obviously, as time comes out, the lore expands. You know, everything else expands. It's gonna be a lot easier to understand it all. But yeah, hey, I would love to see you shit posting on Twitter. So I'm always, and hey, and like you said, it's like the SOLgods Twitter account is more serious, but like, you know, your account or some of the other founders or any other people that are high up on the team, like, you know, they can do different things, and it's cool to see that sometimes. Is it, you know, the different tones that certain things can have, and you know, it's cool to see brand voices come out in different ways and things like that. But also knowing, once again, there's a person behind that PFP. Yeah. Like, it's cool to see your guys, you know, emotions and feelings and your, you know, shit posting and things like that, because it allows people to get to know you and your personality more.
Sure. Yeah. And yeah, like, I mean, it ties back to what I was saying, like marketing hasn't even started as far as we're concerned. And a lot of that has become like, hey, look, we need to solidify this project first before we start scaling this as aggressively as we want. I think like the marketing at the moment has come from that opportunity position that like, hey, look, like we haven't built this, but like if you understand what we're building, come take a seat. And I think like that's been really effective. But I think like once we have that solidification there, once we have these factions out, and once we've done this rebrand, yeah, you're going to see some real aggressive scaling, and then we can start having fun with things. But right now, like, yeah, we need to start boiling down and directing the message.
Makes sense. So, all right. So next we're going to get into the tokenomics, and we're going to explain this. And I want to make sure, once again, I'll give my thoughts on it, or give my what I understand of it, and then you correct me if I'm wrong on any of it.
Sure.
So, of the 3 factions, the only one that actually yields a coin is the gods, right? The gods yield god coin, essentially, by staking those. Am I right on that?
As well as the Omnium, yeah.
Yes, as well as the Omnium. So the Omnium came from a airdrop that you guys did at the beginning of your project, right?
Sure, November, I think.
Okay. So, and the Omnium gets a 1.5 times yield, and basically, we won't get into the exact numbers and whatnot of what each thing is yielding, but basically, you earn more if you leave your SOLgod or your Omnium staking for a longer period of time.
Yeah, so it's like 3 and 6 months. And I remember having a conversation with one of our advisors, and he's like, hey, look, but on this project, like after a week, my staking rewards go up. And I'm like, no, like we need to be embedding this long-term vision. And I think like the more we can help people realize that, and the more we can reward that, the better. Like I think it's like again, it's important to see our project as two different communities almost. You've got the creator economy community that are taking part with the first three factions, and then you've got the mass audience, which is where we want to scale this game to. And we want to be rewarding the creator economy that have come into it with a long-term point of view. That's a real healthy investment. That's a real healthy behavior to be encouraging. So this is why like the staking rewards that we have in place are like over a real long time. And it's the same with our IDO, like our vesting periods over a real long time, which has made our lives difficult with some VCs. And they're like, hey, look, like, why is this so restricted? And I'm like, well, if it's not restricting, like your priority or your incentive was to sell off early. It's like we have things set aggressively for the long term because we're gunning aggressively for the long term.
That makes sense. Do you have a point in time where you see yourself either capping the supply of Godcoin or doing some sort of halving or something along those lines?
So yeah, I mean, like the Godcoin has an infinite supply, but a lot of it would just be done from circulating supply. It depends on. So I mean, one of the reasons that we have this dual token in place is so we have like a real actionable control point. We understand like you release a shitcoin into the wild, all sorts of things can happen, and especially when you throw leverage into the mix, it can get pretty crazy. And that's a really sketchy position to put an investor in. So we want to be mitigating any kind of speculative move as possible. And it's funny. I mean, like some people are like, oh, hey, when utility for this coin, it's like this God coin isn't tradable and its utility will be out far beyond it would be tradable. I think that's going to be like a real key difference. But the point I was getting at was that like when you see these speculative movements that you would see, it's like, hey, look, we've got this dynamic conversion rate impossible. So like, hey, look, the price of Omni goes down too much, we can just increase the fees to reduce the circulating supply. And like that's a significant control point there. And it does incentivize more of the correct investor behavior that you'd like to see for a healthy token. And yeah, I mean, there's a ton of really interesting things that you can do with tokens. And I think that that's some of the things that a lot of people right now are experimenting out loud in terms of like halving the supply or like reducing like the reward rate. But we just need to take fundamentals. And that's how our whole tokenomics has come up from the beginning. Is like, we've just taken inspiration from functioning economy, inflation and deflation. And we're just rolling that out on a micro level. And I'm going to be really interested. And I've got a really good feeling about it. And I don't think people are going to really understand the power of it until you see these massive speculative movements amongst some of these minor these social coins, so to speak. So yeah, excited to see what happens there.
What are people going to be able to use the God coin for?
Yeah, so the God coin is the gaming currency. So it's one of the things that we spoke about a little bit before. So we want to be bringing back value to the God's holders. So if you go out and you buy a bridge and you don't hold a God, in order to really utilize the bridge in the ways that we have laid out, you need to be spending God coin, which brings the liquidity back to the God. It's the main primary way of yielding it. Aside from that, you've got all of the ton of things, so like merchandise, other digital assets, other artwork, and a ton of other stuff. I probably shouldn't be leaking at just this point, but yeah, that is the main gaming currency of the point, and the utility of that will be far extended or be way earlier than you will be into a position to actually exchange that into Omni and trade it.
There we go. So, okay, so then get into OmniCoin. So what are the main differences between OmniCoin and Godcoin?
So Omni will be the tradable asset, and that's like the gateway. So it's like you purchase Omni from a market and you sell that you exchange it into God, and then you can sort of participate in this game. And that's how we're trying to sort of solve like this liquidity issue. I mean, like one of the things that we're super conscious of is like, hey, look, like we're really, we like to say one of our strengths are producing good digital artwork. But we don't want to be diluting liquidity away from the Gods collection. And one of the ways it's good to do that is through currencies, which is why like we provide this like liquid position of the Omni token and exchange that into God. And the reason that you have that dual token is to sort of mitigate the speculative. We hate trading. We much prefer investing, which is why our tokenomics favor that as well. It's not in your best interest financially to trade this thing. Like speculative movements is the main reason that we have these control points in place. We don't want our coin to go up 5,000x out of nowhere. We want the price of the Omni token to be directly following the metrics of the people uptaking this game. Number go up will come from genuine new users coming into the project, not from people speculating and thinking, hey, look, this is going to be worth this amount in this amount of time. We want that to be genuinely reflective of the performance of our game.
That makes sense. So if someone wants to buy the Forgotten Collection, they have to essentially buy Omni on an exchange. Correct. And then exchange that for God coin and then use that God coin to buy the Forgotten Collection.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So I need to, okay. Mental note, Mark. Can you explain the extraction missions?
Sure. This is one of the things like we're toying with here, because like we want to start making that shift in the market. Like, hey, look, this is like an immersive experience. So like, although it's called extraction missions, at the end of the day, this is just short-term staking with mixed rewards. But it's going to be like integrated into the lore, and it's going to be like a fun user experience. But at the end of the day, it's the same old bread and butter that you're used to. But this is just a way of like introducing new concepts of our game. So essentially, you lock up your bridge, it's there for 7 days, and you get a randomized loot-based reward system. You build up those rewards for a long enough time, and you can build yourself a barracks. And the barracks are going to be the digital assets that are sold for this strategy game, which is what we scale out to the general public. So that's where the opportunity is there, because there's quite literally limitless upside from that, which is really exciting. And I'm curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I feel like your guys' game so far, from everything I've read and everything you've talked about, is one of the most well thought out games, and like the tokenomics of this are super, super interesting. And so I'm curious, kind of what the game is going to be like when it's actually playable and things like that. Do you have a guesstimation on when the game will actually be available to people?
Yeah, so we're going to roll this out. It is sensible to do so. I mean, we'll have a prototype out, and we'll allow some kind of like beta testing to begin with. But it's really critical to us that we have like a super addictive game that's really easy to pick up, that you don't even need to speak English. You don't need to be a specific age. You don't even need to be educated. You can pick this up and play this because it's creative and it's fun. And I think the mobile gaming industry sets the bar so low that I think there's a huge opportunity there. I think play to earn gaming, I mean, like, I know it's thrown around as like a buzzword, but there's so much opportunity there, especially when you come out with creative integrity. Especially when you have like a huge creator economy that supports that already. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest issues of play to earn gaming, is that like, hey, look, we want to make this game and we want to scale it out. And it's like, well, no one gives a fuck. And it's like, if you have this creative economy there, let's begin with, you've got like a 15,000 person army whose in best interest is it for that game to do well. And the network effect of that is incredible. And I mean, like, one of the things that we did, like when we went to NFT LA, is like we scouted around all of the other booths, and we found the people that were most competent at marketing their project. We got their numbers and we employed them. So as soon as this game's in place, we're literally going to be at every gaming conference, every crypto conference, every podcast we possibly can, and push this out like crazy. And yeah, it's going to be spicy.
Do we have can we share any alpha on potentially when that prototype might be available?
You're going to get me in so much trouble.
Who can fire you?
Yeah, good point. You'll have something you'd be happy to experience with within 2-3 months.
Okay. Boom, you guys heard it here first. You guys will have something amazing, perfect, nothing wrong with it at all.
Not confirmed.
In the next 2 to 3 months. No, that's exciting. The prototype of that's going to be really cool. I'm looking forward to checking that out. Yeah, I mean, that's super exciting. Going back to OmniCoin real quick, I just want to make sure I have that all figured out. So if somebody is staking their God, right, and they're earning God coin, they can then exchange the God coin for OmniCoin, correct?
Yeah.
And that's where the supply of OmniCoin is coming from.
Correct.
Okay, because there's nothing that's actually earning OmniCoin.
No. So we want to make it in your best interest to not convert to Omni. If you want to convert to Omni, it's only because you want to sell out of your position. But we want to make the game rewarding enough in terms of assets as well to stay within that economy. But the point is here is like, we don't want people to be seeing this as passive income. We see this, that's extremely damaging. Because I mean, like, when number go down, they're going to sell off the most liquid position first. And that's what really scared me about the token. And that's what took us so long to create this model. We didn't want to just release the token into the wild, because the implications of that are really quite damaging. So we needed to make sure there was the appropriate control points in place to mitigate these speculative movements, because tokens are brilliant and they allow to develop a project and provide an entry into a project at a low cost, which doesn't take liquidity, in fact brings liquidity back to the Genesis collections. Which is why we have it in the way that we do.
So the goal is to then like essentially make it so that people who are earning God coin, your goal is to keep that God coin in the market. So they're not exchanging that for Omni. They're keeping that within the game,
correct,
right?
Yeah.
And then for the Omni that does become available, because there's always going to be some people who are going to want to convert it over, sell that, whatever. The goal is to create demand for Omni by doing like the Forgotten collection.
The goal is to create demand for the God coin.
Okay.
The only way to get the gold coin is via Omni, and
Okay.
in which case you have to incur some fees, in which case we can sort of mitigate the circulating supply and make sure that the number don't go down too hard.
Okay.
But it all comes from the scalability of the game. But yeah, it's an exciting model. I mean, we're righting the wrongs of the Axie Infinity model. I mean, their dual token model is brilliant, and it did pave the way. But I think the critical difference was the SPL token was tradable, and they missed that opportunity to have that control point. And now you see that huge speculative movement that you did see in the SPL token. I mean, I can't remember what it was down, but it was down like 70% in like a crazy short amount of time. And it's because that's just a token that's in the wild. There's nothing there to sort of like where you can adjust the fees, where you can sort of mitigate the deflationary aspect of it. So yeah, I'm excited because as far as I'm aware, this is the first dual token model where there's only one token that is tradable. So that control point ends up being seriously significant.
Yeah, no, I mean that makes perfect sense. Drive up the demand for Godcoin, and everything kind of goes along with it.
Yes,
that's super exciting. So, yeah, man, I mean I'm super excited for this. I know one of my questions on here is 6 months from now, what would you like to see happening with the Fracture overall? I would guess that would be the token is rolled out. It's amazing. People are loving it. The prototype is out. What else can we expect in the next 6 months? What would be a success to you?
We would look vastly different. We would have all three faction collections out. I'm going to go ahead and say I aim to be the #1 project in Solana. I do think we'll get there. And I think we'll be ready and well positioned to start scaling out this game. I just, the amount of talent that's coming into this project right now, it's impossible for me not to have that perspective. As far as I'm concerned, this is the best possible attempt we can have at a project like this on Solana. I think besides the development capacity, besides the community, I think now our ability to sort of dictate an attention economy as well and make this journey really exciting for the holders, really exciting for the general public. We want to do something special, and I think like there's a few projects now at the top that are really trying to do this and bring more eyes onto Solana with an element of professionalism and going above and beyond. And I think that's what we're willing to do. So in 6 months, I really do anticipate us being somewhere special. And if we're not, then we've done something wrong.
There we go. All right, so I got a few. I feel like we covered basically everything that's super important to people who are holding the project and people who are looking to buy into the project. So now I've got just kind of some bonus questions. So they're just some fun ones for you. Some
Sure.
nice. These are softballs for you. So what are you reading currently? Any books that you'd recommend?
Oh, blimey. Not reading anything current. I'm just so damn busy, but I used to work on ambulances. I used to do like 12, 14-hour days, and a lot of that was spent in the passenger seat, just reading books. Homo Deus by Yuval Noah Harari, brilliant book, talking about where this is all going. Technology is expanding so quickly, and humans as a collective are really not sort of reflecting on the implications of that, like biohacking, virtual realities, our understanding of value and money. Things are going to change drastically really quickly. And he does a really good job of like sort of mapping out that landscape and mapping out what things are going to look like. And things are going to get changed real quickly. And that kind of helped me sort of welcome this space in with open arms, because you realize that, hey, look, although the traditional world as we knew it is sort of like destabilized and everything's kind of getting reinvented, well, hey, look, that was kind of to be expected. And this is what the future may look like. And that's a brilliant book. A Hero of 1,000 Faces as well by Joseph Campbell, great book, and just classic stories. I think that's so important as well, like especially from a marketing point of view. Like narratives are consistent for a reason, and narratives have been consistent as far as human history goes. And he does a really good job of like mapping out the architecture of that. And I think that there's so many lessons that can be learned there from a marketing point of view. And thirdly, Command and Control, fucking incredible book about nuclear weapons. Massively off topic, but it's just, yeah, I think one of the biggest concerns that we have today, and I think it's also one of the most neglected elements of the world today is we don't realize how sketchy that whole situation is. So yeah, I'd say they're my top three.
Yeah, one button away from just.
Yeah, and if
that never happens.
Yeah, and well, I mean, one of the points they're making is like, I think there's like 3 nuclear missiles that are missing, and it's like, well, it's not something that can easily go missing, because in order to like host a nuclear missile, you need like 100-man team and a silo. So these are like shady backhand deals, and like who knows who has control of this? And it's like it only takes 3 nuclear missiles to wipe out like the whole population of the UK, which is fucking wild. And I mean, like, there's an example as well. Like, I'm not sure where. I think it was somewhere in North America. Of like someone dropped a wrench in a silo and it displaced a tube that was supposed to oxidize the missile, and it nearly just exploded. And it's like, there's just countless examples of that, and like countless like unprofessional storage of like some of the powerful tech that we have on the planet.
And that's all in that book.
The book's incredibly dense and informative. It's not a very enjoyable read, but it's probably one of the most impactful books I've read. Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to have to ask you for links to all of these. This sounds super interesting. And then a nice fun one. Can you get a new microphone? I've been told 1,000 times that you must have the shittiest mic of all time. I hope these mics pass the test of your fan base, because I got that message about 70,000 billion trillion times.
The worst thing is I bought a fucking new microphone and they're still not fucking happy. Like, I think at this point they're just taking the piss out of me at any excuse possible.
I'm gonna have to listen to it and see if I
agree
with
you have to
make
make your own decision on that one.
Yeah. But if you need a new one, this is the SM7B. These are about as these are great. Yeah, big fan of these. But yeah, and then last thing, I got a food for thought question for you. What gets you excited about life? And let's just say outside of NFTs and everything you're building, what gets you excited about life right now?
I think the most exciting thing at the minute is people's ability these days to be objective, and just not abide by things because that's how they've always been. I think like the way that like we're rethinking finance at the minute via crypto is like incredible. The way we're like rethinking like transport, climate, diet, is incredible. I think like for so long we've just abided by what has been taught above us. And I think like now we're at this like kind of pivotal point where like we're making our own decisions and we're basing them off objective data. And I'm a huge fan of objectivity, which is why I came here to begin with. So that's what's exciting for me at the minute, is like we're uprooting so much bullshit from the past. And I think that leads to like some really incredible places.
I agree. That's super cool to think about. Last thing, is there any alpha at all besides everything that we've talked about that you want to share? Is there anything for people who have spent the last hour and 40 some minutes listening to us? Is there any alpha that you want to leave at the end here for them?
Just fucking pay attention. Just pay attention. There are people that are like putting their lives on the line to make this work. Like it's honestly scary to think about, like the intensity of the team, and the accountability of each other. Like it's like nothing I've ever seen before. I do not see a situation where this doesn't go somewhere incredible. Not financially. I couldn't give a fuck about finance at this point. Like we're building something here that's trying to like revolutionize Solana and how people view NFT projects as a whole. And I truly do believe we're going to do so. And whatever number go up, go down, what happens as a result, is besides the point. We're just trying to build the best fucking thing we can. So yeah, just pay attention. There's going to be it's going to get real exciting real quick.
You can always tell when someone's like actually super enthusiastic about what they're talking about, when they know, I know you got some shit that you can't tell everyone yet, but you can tell when someone's got some shit that they're ready to be like, listen, because I think there's one quote that you guys put out there. It's like something along the lines of like, in the end, it'll be so obvious.
Yeah, damn straight. I mean, one of the things, like I've said this a number of times, like I'm super bullish on like stories, like individual stories, like people that have like seen the vision before there was the metrics. And that's kind of what we've outlaid here. It's like, hey, look, we've shown you the fundamentals. Like, hey, it's not obvious. Hey, like you haven't seen the price action that should reflect that. But like in hindsight, you can be like, oh, for fucking, yeah, of course. Of course, like you're going to side with the thing that had the model. Of course, you're going to side with the thing that was planning to be here in a year's from now. Because when a year comes around and we're still here, it's going to be fucking, well, yeah, they were planning for that. In hindsight, it's fucking obvious. Like,
damn. Okay. God, I need one. Not financial advice, but it sounds like we all need one. Not financial advice though. So last thing, plug your socials. Where can people find you directly if they would like to reach out to you?
Yeah, my personal LH_EXE, and then SOLgods_ for the main account. But yeah, come check us out. Come jump into the Discord, ask questions. I'm there 24/7. The whole community's there. We're here to build the best project we can. And if you want to help, and like we're aggressively hiring 24/7. Like if you think you have a skill set that we need, like let us know. We're building at 1,000,000 miles an hour right now.
There we go. Is there anything last? Oh wait, actually, real quick, is that username going to be changing at all as you guys rebrand to the Fracture?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're spilling alpha at this point, but yeah, it'd be the fracture underscore. It should be.
Okay, because yeah, if we put this out,
Yeah, of course. It just feels weird because nobody knows about it. It's the first time I've.
Well, damn it, there we go. There's some alpha. So I'm looking forward to that. In the end, it'll be so obvious. I'm looking forward to as we have you back on the pod in the future and we talk about how some of these things laid out and everything and how they played out and everything like that. Very excited to see that. But once again, thank you for coming out here.
Hey,
I know once again you did a lot to do this. 20 hours is a whole hell of a lot. And so I very much appreciate it, and I hope everybody took the time to listen to this entire podcast episode because it goes to show how much effort you guys are putting into this entire project. And I'm really excited to see how it all plays out. And yeah, like you said, it's gonna be a fun future. Like I don't want to say just it's gonna be a fun next like 6 or 7 weeks. It's gonna just be fun moving forward.
We'll sit down in 4 years and we'll have another conversation and we'll be like, oh shit, yeah, okay.
and then we'll be saying then,
yeah.
In the end, it was so obvious. So thank you for coming on. Thank you everybody else for tuning in, and we'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, man.
No problem. See you guys.